So now that we've already learned a couple of steps about how to refine our selections by working with the different modes and now adding feathers, let's talk about smoothing our selections. I'm going to zoom in on this image. Oops, sorry. Control D. I thought I grabbed my zoom tool. Here we go. I'm going to zoom in on the mouth. And what I want is to be able to select the mouth here. And for this example, I will recolor the mouth, but we could also do something like maybe I just want to make a selection of that mouth to be able to put onto something else. I'm going to use my quick selection tool and make the brush a little bit larger, but I don't want a very large brush. And kind of just move around the edge. And inevitably, I am going to get the center of the mouth, the middle of the mouth, and I don't want that. And that's pretty good. Just kind of touch that up a little bit right here. I'm going to switch to the subtraction mode for this tool. Make my the radius of my brush very small, maybe even smaller. So the selection and what I grab is definitely affected by the size, the radius of my brush. Okay, so that's pretty good for right now. And now I'm going to go up to that option that we see in the options bar, Refine Edge. In the Refine Edge, first of all, you notice that my screen changes immediately, and I only see what I have selected, which is very useful. I also have all of these options, one of which is feather. So in the last video, I talked about how you can add a feather to your image either before making the selection, or you can add a feather after you've made your selection before you copy and paste it. And here's a third way. When you go to the Refine Edge option, this is when you can also add that feather. And you can see as I really increase that feather how my edges become very soft. That's not really what I want. I want to get my image maybe just a slight feather so they're slightly softer. But here's a better way to soften my edges. There's the smooth adjustment. And that's what I'm going to use. And kind of increase that. And what you should notice, I can make an extreme one, how my edges are slowly becoming smoother. So this is without any smooth. And you can see the edges are pretty rough. And then I'm going to increase the smoothness until I really want to see the lips at the bottom kind of getting smoother. If I have the opposite problem and I want to increase the contrast, so make them less smooth, I have the contrast adjustment here. And I'm going to click OK. And so now, just to be able to see what we've done with this example, I'm going to go up to Image, and I'll take my image adjustment, Hue, and Saturation. Move that to the side. And let's pick a different hue for this image, for the lips, so we can see how this works. I'm going to switch it all the way over, kind of get something with a little bit more color added onto it. Increase the saturation a little bit. Click OK, and now Control D. And you can see the edges are pretty soft. I'm also looking at it very zoomed in. So let's look at that zoomed out. It still could use a little bit of retouching, perhaps. This is pretty much following the flow of the lines that were there. It still could use some retouching. But what you can see is that my edges are really, really soft. If I wanted to go back in my history panel, just to when I had that selection, and if I did Control J, so we can just see what that selection looks like, I now have the lips that have been copied with a refined selection, so they're really, really soft. So let's talk about how to do that with the lasso tools. I'm going to go, actually I'll zoom in a little bit more on her finger up here. It's the same process. Take the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to make some selections around the edge of her finger. And once I get to the other side, I'm going to take a little bit more than I need on purpose, just so I can show you how you can also reduce the size of your selection using the Refine Selection option. Just kind of moving around here. And I'll speed it up a bit for the sake of the video. Close my selection. So if I go up to the Refine Edge, I can see just my finger here. And I want to point out the Shift Edge If I increase my shift edge, I'm getting a little bit more of the outside. And if I decrease my shift edge, my edge of my selection, I'm going to smooth it as well. My edge of my selection is decreasing a bit as well. So increasing my smoothness and decreasing the shift edge. And now I'll add just a tiny feather to kind of soften that up. Got rid of the little bit of extra stuff that you saw that came with the original selection. And now I'm going to click OK. Remember, I am viewing this at 200%. Control J, so we can look at this selection. Perhaps let's put a solid color background behind it. Backspace I'll use, and zoom out to 100%. And now you can see it's a pretty smooth selection along the edge of the finger. Okay, so definitely while you're working with any one of your selection tools, consider working with the refine edge option here and use that to smooth, add a small amount of feather. If you have a little bit too much, you can increase the contrast if it's a little bit too sort of blurry at the edges, or if you want to increase or decrease a little bit of your selection, you can use the shift edge.